Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to the first of two candidate forums this evening. The first candidate forum will focus on the candidates for USD 250 Board of Education at 6 o'clock, obviously. Around 6:50, 6:55, we'll take a short break, or if we get done a little bit early. Then we will welcome the candidates for Pittsburg City Commission. That's coming along at 7 o'clock this evening, but certainly do want to thank all those who are attending tonight to watch the forums in person, and those that may be watching at home tonight. And obviously a big thanks to the City of Pittsburg for hosting us tonight, to the City of Pittsburg production crew that makes it possible for people to view from home if they're not able to make it here tonight. First of all, I want to welcome our three candidates for USD 250 Board of Education that are here with us this evening. Mindy Cloninger, Marlene Willis, Kayla Joy. I do want to point out that candidates Rusty Akins, Al Mendez, and Laura Sullivan were unable to join us this evening, but I do want to point out that all candidates were invited to attend this evening. My name is Blake Benson. I'll serve as the moderator for tonight's event, joined as always by Andrew Nash, managing editor for the Morning Sun, who will serve as our proctor this evening and will essentially be filtering the questions from the crowd to make sure that all questions are fair and are applicable to all of the candidates, because we certainly don't want to let any cheap shots through or anything like that. We want this to be a good experience for the candidates. A little bit of on the ground rules for this evening. Our candidates have drawn numbers to see who gets to go first. Ms. Cloninger will be the first candidate to speak this evening. All three candidates will provide a welcome or an opening statement, no more than 2 minutes long. Then we'll ask a couple of questions that the candidates did receive in advance, and then we'll open it up to questions from the audience. So I would encourage the audience to be thinking about questions they may want to ask. We've got pens and paper toward the back of the room. We would ask that you write down your questions, submit it to Mr. Nash. He'll look over that, and if it is fair and applicable to all three candidates, he'll pass that on to me, and if time permits, we'll get to as many questions from the audience as we have time for this evening. So before we begin, are there any questions from the candidates? Okay. Well, then let's go ahead and get started with opening statements. As I mentioned, the candidates drew numbers before the event, and Ms. Cloninger, you're first, so your opening statement.
Thanks, Blake. My name's Mindy Cloninger. I have lived in Pittsburgh for 15 years. My husband Craig and I met when we were in college here at Pittsburg State University some years ago, and we returned here in 1999. Our two sons, Jake and Hank, were just starting school age, and so Jake started kindergarten and Hank started preschool at the center, and they went through the USD 250 district K through 12. They've both graduated from Pittsburgh High School, and they're both students at Pittsburg State University now. I am the Director of Career Services at Pittsburg State, and I'm a career counselor, and I teach a career exploration class. I have been a career counselor and a university administrator for 26 years, both at Pittsburg State and at a university in Kansas City. We are pretty active in the community. I am involved in a number of volunteer experiences, and most of those pretty much evolve around education and children, providing opportunities for children and young people. And so I'll just name a couple of those, and I'm sure that we'll talk more about those in a little bit. I am currently the chair of the Business Education Alliance, excuse me, which we refer to as BEA. That's a partnership between the chamber and the school district and area businesses. And so we interact and talk about ways that the workforce can bridge with the education and curriculum here in the Pittsburgh area. And so that's one that really directly impacts students. And like I said, I'll talk a little bit more about that, as well as Rotary and Boy Scouts. I was president of the PHS Tennis Boosters and some other, of course, school PTO and site council and those kinds of organizations. So I'll elaborate more on that and leave it there.
Thank you, Ms. Cloninger. Also wanted to mention that Andrew has a couple of cards, a yellow one and a red one. The yellow card means you have 30 seconds left, and obviously the red card means you're out of time. So I forgot to mention that. And he's the enforcer on time. So Ms. Willis.
Thank you, Blake. Hi, my name is Marlene Willis, and I am currently serving on the USD 250 School Board. I've had the opportunity to be president of the school board for the last 2 years. And my husband and I, our story's much like Mindy's in that my husband and I met at Pittsburg State University. I'm a Southeast Kansas girl, born and raised, and except for about 8 years after we got married, we moved to Overland Park. At that point, we had young children, and we decided that it was time to get back to a community. So we determined that Pittsburg was the community that we wanted to settle in. So we came back. Our son Duncan was 16 months old. Our daughter Mackenzie was 3. And much like Mindy, our kids went through preschool here in Pittsburgh and have also graduated. This is the type of place that we chose to come and live and work. So in that time period, we have been part of Rotary, we've been part of Kiwanis, we've engaged as a group and as a family. There are a lot of activities that I've been involved in as well. For a number of years, I taught at the YMCA. I think that health and fitness is an important part of the community, and I think it ties in well with the school district. I've worked at Via Christi, and most recently, I'm working at Greenbush. I'm working in a department in the Medicaid Billing Services Department for IEPs for schools. I've enjoyed my tenure on the school board, and I do look forward to other opportunities, and I see the 30-second card, so I will turn it over to Kayla.
Ms. Joy.
Good evening. My name is Kayla Joy. Our stories are all very parallel, actually, except my husband and I moved here before children about 22 years ago. But since then, we added a son who has since graduated from Pittsburgh High School and is a student at Pittsburg State University, and we have a daughter as well who is a sophomore at Pittsburgh High School. So I, too, am a Southeast Kansas native. I currently work at Via Christi Hospital, where I've worked for 14 years. I am responsible for physician recruitment for the facility. Prior to that, I was with the Chamber of Commerce, and was very lucky in both instances to be very involved in leadership development in the community, both at the adult level and at the youth level. So I've had the opportunities, in addition to my own students, to be involved in the schools at several levels throughout my professional and volunteer career. I also currently serve on the Board of Education. I'm completing a 4-year term where I've had the pleasure to serve with Marlene, and that's been a pleasure, and it's been a fast 4 years, and I feel like I still have a lot to learn and hopefully more to contribute, so that's why I'm here this evening.
Okay, well, thank you again for being with us this evening. As I mentioned, we'll now go into a couple of questions that the candidates were provided in advance. Again, would encourage the audience members to think of questions they may want to ask and jot those down and submit those to Mr. Nash. The first prepared question will be answered by Ms. Willis, and the question is this: what excites you about becoming a board member, and what do you see as the main responsibility of a USD 250 Board of Education member?
Serving as a board member requires a lot of thoughtfulness. One of the things that I learned coming onto the board is that each individual is a singular voice, and that the voice of the board is actually created by the collective vote. So each individual board member needs to act a lot like our students in our community. They need to do their homework, they need to come prepared, they need to ask questions, and they need to participate. But more importantly, you need to do the extracurricular work, and that's what excites me about being a school board member, is the opportunity to dig in, to learn, to engage in webinars, to engage in trainings, to learn about things like school finance, and to truly try to fulfill our responsibility to complete the mission and the goals of the district, to provide diverse and learning opportunities for a lifetime success for our students, to retain quality staff, to plan for the future, and above all, to do everything in a fiscally responsible way. And for some people that may not sound like fun, but but truthfully, if you believe in the future of this community and believe in the future of the students that live in this community, that hopefully one day will be part of the economic engine of this community, it is a lot of fun.
Ms. Joy, same question.
Excuse me. I think great things are happening in Pittsburgh Community Schools right now, and that alone is an exciting aspect of the potential opportunity to be able to continue to serve on the board. As far as my opinion of the main responsibility of a board member, I believe that it's our responsibility to be an active part of the whole, to be one voice, as Marlene said, of 7. We are just one of 7, but to be an active part of that governing body, to help decision-making at a high level for the district, to support the administrators and teachers in any way that we can and allow them to do the jobs that we've hired them to do. And I believe it's our job to help provide the resources to the best of our ability to allow them to always make the decisions that are best for students.
Good. Ms. Cloninger.
Well, of course, I would echo those sentiments, and I haven't had the opportunity to serve on the board yet, but I am excited about that possibility. It does sound like fun to me. I've had a number of people ask me, do I really think that would be fun, and why in the world would I want to do that? And I do. I really enjoy any opportunity to work with a kind of a collective body, a board of some sort, and address challenges, whether it's in my workplace or in a volunteer situation or for the community. That's something that I greatly enjoy, working together with a team to collaborate and really come up with solutions that are in the best interest of that organization. Of course, in this situation, it's our children and the young people of our community. I think we need to be good stewards of the funds that come our direction and make very informed decisions in that regard. Be informed and do our homework and do our research, and there's a lot to know, and these ladies have been through that, and in my experiences in the last few weeks, I have learned a lot and found that there is a lot of research to do, and there is just a great deal to know about how that all operates. And also, I think that the school board, of course, takes a look at the policies and, again, makes informed decisions about making those policies, setting those or adjusting those in the best interests of our students.
Okay. Very good. Our second prepared question will be answered first by Ms. Joy, and the question is this: what do you see as the greatest challenge for the USD 250 school district over the next 5 years?
Well, I think you might hear a common theme here as we go forward, but many of us may agree that funding is probably the biggest challenge, and not even just lack of, but the systems in place to provide that for our students. So it's in the news a lot lately. It's not something that has surprised us as a board, thanks to the ongoing education that we've been provided by our superintendent. So he asks the question of us a lot. He asks the question of the teachers and other administrators in the district, is this what's best for kids? So I think as we look at potential continued budget deficits, continued shortages, that is the question that we have to always ask ourselves: is this what's best for kids? Is this what's best for our students? And so in my opinion, the greatest challenge facing our district over the next 5 years will, unfortunately, will be funding.
Ms. Cloninger?
Okay. Well, I would definitely agree that funding is a huge challenge, and I know that our leadership is currently, taking a hard look at that. As Kayla said, it's not exactly a surprise. Not knowing exactly what's going to be handed down is a little bit of a mystery, but at the point that it has finally come to us, it wasn't really a huge surprise. I know that Destry has worked closely with his staff, and I think he's very transparent about some of the areas that he's looking at, and in terms of how he can reduce spending and areas of maintenance and transportation and things that hopefully would not impact curriculum and academics and some of the activities that really impact students on their personal level. And I certainly am in agreement with those. And then I would also just mention the space issue and our growing population here in the USD 250 school district, particularly at the kindergarten level. We have a large number of children that have come in as kindergartners. The Pittsburgh High School is bursting at the seams, and really we just have a real population situation with our students, and so that leads to space issues, to equipment issues, and just trying to provide the resources for all of the students that they need and enough room for them to adequately just spend their days. And so I think that that's going to be something that we need to continue to take a hard look at.
Very good. Ms. Willis?
Well, I know I have 2 minutes to answer the question, but I think you both have already pretty much said what I was going to say. But in addition to that, 4 years ago, when Kayla and I sat here in this room at the other Candidate Forum prior to that election, finance was also on the minds of everyone. At that time, the base state aid per pupil was being underfunded. Fast forward now 4 years, base state aid is no longer a part of the issue, it's block grants. And we are still in an uncertain time. Whether or not there are revenues to actually fund the block grants remains to be seen. Kansas is still struggling to figure out how to completely and adequately fund the local school board. I think one of the challenges, aside from the budget issues, is the challenge of a school board to advocate for their students to their local representatives, to communicate what our significant and special needs are, so that our representatives can, think about what's in the best interest of the kids of our community. So that's hard to do. Those are hard conversations to have, and I think you have to come to a point where you agree to disagree. So facing that challenge, I think, for local school boards, in spite of finances, is one of the major things that we're going to look at in the next 4 to 5 years.
Very good. All right, we will, I would say that we're going to transition into some questions from the audience. We haven't received any, so this may be a short event tonight. But I will offer up a question that the candidates have not received in advance, but we're going to ask it this evening anyway. In the coming months, the USD 250 Board of Education will address a number of infrastructure-related items and needs that could have a price tag of as much as $65 million as reported in the Morning Sun. Please offer your position on the issue and what role you as a member of the Board of Education would play in solving it. I'm happy to read it again. It's kind of a long one, if you'd like me to. Ms. Cloninger will be answering first. Essentially, how do you propose your opinion on the infrastructure issue and what role you think you would play as a Board of Education member? Ms. Cloninger.
The facilities issue
Correct.
as well? Okay. Yeah, I am currently on the USD 250 Facilities Task Force. I've been on that since its inception for this purpose, so I'm not sure, a little over a year or year and a half maybe we've been meeting. Had the opportunity to tour most of the school buildings and attend the community discussion groups. There have been a couple of those where we've had a large number of community folks involved, and I facilitated some of those discussions at round tables. So I feel like I've had an opportunity to really hear firsthand what some community folks are thinking about that and how they feel about that, an opportunity to look at the facilities. There is definitely a need there that's pretty immediate, and it will be, there will be a cost attached to it. There's no doubt about it. I need to take a further look at what is presented from the architects in that company, and I know that we've just had one quick viewing with the board just this last week, I guess. So it's still a little early to talk about the specifics of that, but certainly it is something that we need to be addressing. Again, there's not enough space for kindergartners to come up and through all of the grade levels, and so I think there's some really creative ideas in the mix in terms of the 5th and 6th grade center or some of those types of solutions, and I think that folks have really taken, and the leadership of the district has taken a very strategic look at that so far, and we're trying to get a lot of community input, so I would encourage folks in the audience today to provide your input to that, because we really want to hear from a large number of folks in the community. And when I say we, I'm talking about the task force, since I'm obviously not on the school board. But I think that the school board would agree with that. We'd like to get a lot of input on that. It's certainly something that we cannot ignore any longer, that we're bursting at the seams in most of our school buildings.
Very good. Ms. Willis.
The facility plan, in fact, I wondered if it would come up tonight, so I actually overachieved and brought a copy with me.
Showing off.
Yeah, but truthfully, this is the work that the facilities committee has done this year, and they presented it to the board just this last week, and there's a lot of great information in there. Things that, in reading in passing, that as a school board member for 4 years, things that I didn't know. So again, our job, or my job as a school board member related to specifically this task, is to educate myself, is to take the time to really read what this community group has put together. And when we put this group together, we thoughtfully engaged a diverse group. We wanted a wide variety of backgrounds, a wide variety of life experiences, because this is part of the community. Our community is diverse. So as we plan for the future, we want to make sure that we have very diverse opinions coming from the community about this. So I'm going to echo what Mindy just said, is that if you haven't had an opportunity to engage in this process, take the time. Our superintendent is out at local donut places over the next month, trying not to gain weight, and dispensing really valuable information about our schools. So that's what you need to do, is just to be part of the conversation with us so that we can make good, informed decisions.
Thank you. Ms. Joy.
Well, not to be outdone, my book is in my car, and I carry it with me everywhere I go also. No, I say that to tease Marlene, but what great work that facilities committee has done, and what a great, I hate to even use the word problem. It's not a problem. It's, we're growing, and that's good. That puts us in a unique position compared to many other, districts in our region. So growth is not a bad thing. With it comes challenges, though, and that's what we have really tried to be very deliberate and intentional with this facilities plan. And much work has gone into that. I would just, remind people that work is not done. That's just been presented to us. We have more input to receive. We have more learning to do ourselves. I think I would echo what Marlene says as far as what my role would be in the board with that, is to continue to be educated, to receive input and feedback from the public, from students, what's important to them. And I'm just really proud of the process that has happened with this facilities planning, and I think it's important for all of us to trust that process, to be proud of that, and be grateful for the community involvement that we've had. That might be something we take for granted, that we have all of that support and people willing to serve in that way. It's not that way everywhere, and so we need to be grateful for the information we've received and use it and be good stewards of that information.
Very good. Well, I'm proud to announce that the audience is awake now, and we now have good questions from the audience to ask our candidates. And this next question will be answered first by Ms. Willis, and it's a brief question, but it's pretty powerful. So I'll ask it again to give you maybe an extra half second to think about your answer. What is your position on Common Core? Your position as a USD 250 Board of Education member or potential member on Common Core. Ms. Willis.
Common Core is obviously one of those issues that you're either really for it, really against it. And what I have seen of Common Core is it has helped align student learning. It has helped engage staff. It has brought staff to common conversations about what the goals are for students. One of the things that I remember from Common Core is, as it was being introduced, was depth of knowledge. Depth of knowledge is just how well do you understand a topic, and how do you determine if a student understands and really knows a topic. And there are different strategies to engage with in the classroom to determine if a student has really learned what you need them to learn. And at the basis of Common Core, for me, that's what I have taken away from it, is that it is about making sure that students have grasped completely the topics that needed to be understood, that they are learning skills to think outside of the box, that it isn't just by rote, that you are creating critical thinkers. And in our society, it's important to be able to think for yourself and to determine what is the best course of action. To me, that is what is Common Core.
Thank you. Ms. Joy, 2 minutes.
Well, I would start with saying that standards aren't new, that it's the language that we use to describe those, and there have been a variety of buzzwords over the years. So to think that that creating these standards is something brand new is not accurate. Common Core, the curriculum itself, may well be. So it is important to evaluate the knowledge that we're providing to our students. Is it perfect? I don't know that any curriculum would be perfect, but my own experience with the importance of that depth of knowledge, like Marlene indicated, to be able to go into the workforce, into the world, and be able to do more than just memorize what's going to be on the test, but to really understand it and to function as a productive member of society. I think that's the intent. Will it continue to evolve? Will we still need to evolve with that? Absolutely. But I believe the intent is valid and important.
Cloninger.
Probably not a whole lot to add to that, although I would agree that anytime that you can identify some standards that are going to work and transfer well from one institution to another, I think that that's always a good thing, because there can be a lot of frustration and has been a lot of frustration, and trying to get everybody sort of on that same page. From conversations that I've had with folks, in my experiences, my understanding is that our board was actually a little bit ahead of the curve on that, and in this area, we've already had those standards in place for quite some time, and so that's not necessarily something that's going to be brand new or is brand new to our area. And it's something that our board has worked through effectively, and like Kayla said, there's still a lot to learn, but that's something that, again, isn't brand new. So, at its common denominator, I think most people pretty much agree that a common set of standards eases confusion and sort of assures achievement and those sorts of things. There's a lot more to it that's a little bit more divisive, and I certainly know that I have much more to learn about that, but I think at its core, not to use a pun, that it can be a very positive thing. I think we just there's quite a bit more about it that we need to learn.
Okay. Very good. Our next question from the audience will be answered first by Ms. Joy, and the question is this: what have you done or what will you do to involve the citizens at large in decisions that you as board members will need to make concerning education? What have you done or what would you do to involve citizens at large in our community in decisions that you as board members will need to make concerning education? Ms. Joy.
Well, I think that's a very timely question, and specifically as a board, the Facilities Task Force was a great example of involving the community at large. Destry's Donut Days kind of has a nice ring to it. I think is another example. I can't take credit for that personally, but I think it's something that we support as a board. It's a venue. And I think we need to look for more things such as this to invite the public. But I would say, what have we done? The Facilities Task Force would be the best example. And again, that process is something that I mentioned earlier that I'm proud of. And I think our insistence on not rushing that process. There were some things that came up at the last board meeting with, well, maybe we should push it a little faster, and we chose not to because we don't feel that that's best for the community. So I think continuing to engage the community in task forces such as that, and basically, very simply just asking people what they think. Sometimes I think we make things too difficult, and just simply people that I'm talking to, what are your thoughts on this? I think it doesn't have to be always that formal.
Ms. Cloninger.
Okay. I would agree with that. As a member of the USD Facilities Task Force, I was pleased at the process that the district went through to engage folks, even the way that they identified the members of the task force, and inviting folks to recommend and invite other participants in just creating that task force from the beginning, and just to continue to kind of ripple out and keep engaging more and more people. I think that they had a very good cross-section of the community, even to begin with, and at this point, a couple of hundred folks involved, and I believe the goal is to have about 1,000 people involved in some aspect to be giving voice to that decision. So I think that that's a wonderful thing that the district has done. I think that our leadership, our superintendent, embraces transparency, putting himself out in the community is a choice that he has to make, something that he wouldn't have to do. He could say the door is open and people can come by and see me anytime at the board office, and that's true, but putting himself out in the community is great. So I think that's a great example of leading by example. If Destry Brown does that as the superintendent, I think that spills down to the board, and then the board puts themselves out there. As a board candidate, I pride myself on being accessible. I am out in the community in a variety of ways. I'm somebody that people do visit with, and I'm a pretty good listener, and I think that that's a really important skill in these kinds of issues.
Good. Ms. Willis.
I was actually thinking about this tonight on the way here, thinking about Destry going out and discussing the facilities with the community. And it reminded me that at the beginning of our tenure, we actually, on our second meeting of the month, we went out to the different schools and had our school board meeting at the local schools. And it gave us a chance to basically engage with staff. And so I think, why couldn't the board go on tour as well? Maybe our second meeting of the month, especially during this time when we are looking at facilities and what the community wants or what the community needs, and a way to engage. So I think it's worth a conversation to see if we could have a USD 250 roadshow. And that would enable us to perhaps in our second meetings of the month to get out to where people are, because obviously we allow people to come to the board meetings. We rarely have visitors unless they're from the Pittsburg State University Nursing Department. They are frequent visitors. I think they're required to be there. So, but I think that would be a great opportunity for us to actually get out from behind the desk and have a reason to engage with the public, and just make it more of an open-ended conversation, and maybe just see what we do, if you're not watching on Monday nights. So.
Very good. All right, our next question from the audience will be answered first by Ms. Cloninger, and the question is this. In recent years, Pittsburg High School has extended its curriculum to include vocational programs through a variety of sources and universities and includes such programs as EMT, electrical, automotive, and others. Would you support expanding these programs or adding new ones should the opportunity arise? I can read that again if you'd like me to. I've kind of modified it a little bit.
No,
Yeah.
no, thank
Okay.
you. No, I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Ms. Cloninger.
Thank you. This is actually, I'm thrilled to answer this question, an area that I feel really strongly about. Those vocational programs, I think, are super important. You know, a lot of times folks think because I work at the university that I think every student's going to go to college or should go to college. But I've been involved with the district and with the high school and the Business Education Alliance and other things for a long, long time, and certainly know that many students will not have a desire to go to college and don't have a need to go to college, and that's okay. As a career counselor, I've worked with a lot of students. It's not the right thing for everybody. So those vocational programs can lead to solid careers. They can lead to you know, a great lifestyle and a great life for those young people. You know, I'm really excited to be a part of the board for the SEK Career and Technical Education Center. I was a part of that workforce coalition, again, for over a year and a half, and I think it's something that's been going on for about 25 years, actually, but we have finally established a Career and Technical Education Center in Crawford County, and all of the stars just kind of aligned, and that came together. It is an exciting facility. I've been there many times. We held the BEA Crawford County Career Opportunities Day event out there, and I chaired that event and was super excited to host it there and to see students engaging hands-on. They were welding. They were doing everything from welding to getting their nails done by the cosmetology program from Fort Scott Community College. But there are a lot of things that are going on out there, and students that are becoming you know, prepared and skilled members of our future community, and very, very much in support of that.
Very good. Ms. Willis.
One of the goals of the board is diverse learning opportunities for students. So especially at Pittsburg High School, when a student is just on the cusp of what am I going to be when I grow up, it's absolutely necessary to provide students with a wide range of opportunities so that if you want to get an associate's, that's essentially a certificate, that's fantastic, because as you leave the high school, you can immediately go out and begin to work in a job that pays greater than minimum wage. And if your desire is to go ahead and finish a 4-year degree, you now have a great job skill set that enables you to potentially pay for your own education. So anything that we can do to support students in that diverse learning opportunity, absolutely. I was so excited when, as Mindy said, the stars aligned for the career and technology to really basically come to life. Everything worked in the right way, and we have so many students that want to do something more, that want to fund their education. Providing kids with all kinds of opportunities, whether it's masonry, whether it's a CNA, whether it's culinary arts, anything that we can do along those lines will further not only their lives but also our communities.
Ms. Joy.
I think if there is, you know, if we have the opportunity to assist students in finding their passion and their strength, then absolutely we need to do everything we can to make those opportunities available. And beyond the great resources that we've already mentioned with the new center that we have, our administration is very strong and already working with students. If we have a group of students that have an interest that maybe we don't have the numbers, you know, within our own high school to provide that opportunity, we very recently had a situation where our administrators sought out a neighboring school district to help provide that. So collaboration is important to that. I think we'll see a lot more of that with perhaps shrinking budgets, but So back to the question, absolutely yes, I'm very much in favor of that. And I would personally love to find a way to go back to the culinary arts program myself, but I look a little old for high school, so I don't know.
Well, thank you all for your responses. We'll now transition into the final stage of tonight's forum, which will be the 2-minute closing statements by each candidate. And keeping in line with our order we've been following, Ms. Cloninger, you will provide the first closing statement this evening.
Okay, thank you. Well, I appreciate the opportunity that you provided for us this evening to be here, and I'm in excellent company. It's a privilege to run for the school board, and I'm honored to be amongst a really fine group of candidates. School board is a natural fit for me. I feel like it is the natural next step for me. I've been involved, like I said, in just a number of things, but particularly the Business Education Alliance has been a community involvement that's been, I would say, pretty closely aligned with the school district and the school board, where we're looking at issues and workforce needs and developing skills of students, helping to prepare the juniors and seniors in particular with practice interviews and resume assistance, the sophomores with job shadow assistance, and that all fits really well, of course, with my position as a career counselor and my background in counseling. So I feel like the school board fits really well with that as well, where it just gives me an opportunity to continue to have an impact on students, and again, at a higher level, to be looking at broader issues, to look more at funding issues and policies and those types of things. Those are difficult challenges. I'm not really one to step down from challenges. I enjoy facing challenges and taking them apart kind of strategically and collaborating with others to find solutions. Those challenges are going to exist either way, and so I would really welcome the opportunity to be a part of finding those solutions.
Very good.
Thank you.
Ms. Willis.
Thank you. I appreciate everyone who came out this evening. Thank you for coming, and thank you for those who took the time to tune in tonight and listen. The last 4 years have been very rewarding, and although it has been hard work, I truly do look forward to 4 additional years. We are on the cusp of so many great things in this community. The facilities plan is just ready to blossom. We have the opportunity to hear so much more from the community, and like Mindy, I enjoy the wrangling. I enjoy listening. I enjoy solving problems. I enjoy figuring out what we can or can't do, and, well, can we figure out another way, which is right where we are in local school boards. Funding is a question, but man, the opportunities that we have to educate students, the different career paths that kids can take. I think I mentioned earlier it's kind of fun. Well, I would really like to have 4 more years of fun serving this community, figuring out issues, working through problems, and at the end, getting to shake a kid's hand as he goes across at graduation.
Ms. Joy.
That is very rewarding on that graduation day. As I would echo what Marlene said, and thank you all for being here, and thank you to those who have tuned in to watch our forum. I think I mentioned earlier that it has been a fast 4 years, and I don't feel like I'm finished with my contributions, and I certainly know I'm not finished with the learning that I would like to do, because I have learned a lot in 4 years. It's kind of like a drink from a fire hose, as we've said. It's a lot of information, but it is fun, and it's very rewarding, and it's something that I don't feel, if the voters choose, I'm quite finished with, and it would be an honor to be able to continue to serve on this Board of Education. I mentioned that I am from a small town in southeast Kansas, where I attended a much smaller school district. And I've really come to appreciate the size of our district, the size of the student population. We have so much to offer, and I think it's a very exciting time for our district, and we have a lot of work to do, and it would be an honor to be chosen to continue to be a part of that.
Thank you again to our candidates for joining us. I hope the audience will help me give a big round of applause to our candidates here this evening. Thank you again. We will now take a brief break, bring up our candidates for Pittsburg City Commission, and we'll reconvene at 7 p.m.
Good job, ladies.
events, a candidate forum focusing on the upcoming race a week from today for Pittsburg City Commission. Proud to announce that all 5 of our candidates are with us this evening. We'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves momentarily. Again, my name is Blake Benson. I'll be the moderator this evening, joined by Andrew Nash, the managing editor of the Morning Sun, who will serve as the proctor or the question filter and also the timekeeper for tonight's event. The ground rules for this evening: each of the candidates will be allowed 2 minutes for an opening statement. Mr. Nash is again keeping track of time. If you see a yellow card, that means you've got 30 seconds left, and the red card means you're out of time. Once we're done with the opening statements, we will ask the candidates a couple of questions that they were provided in advance, and then we will transition to questions from the audience. So I would encourage our audience members to think about questions they would like to ask. We've got pens, we've got paper toward the back of the room. Please jot those questions down. Submit them to Mr. Nash. What we ask is that questions be fair and applicable to all the candidates. They can't be geared toward just one candidate or a series of candidates. But if a question is fair and applicable to all 5 of the candidates, then Mr. Nash will pass that on to me, and I will ask it of our candidates for tonight. Again, a big thanks to the City of Pittsburgh for hosting us this evening and making it possible for those that couldn't attend in person to watch on TV. So before we begin, are there any questions from tonight's candidates? Okay. Well, we drew numbers before tonight's event to determine the order that you all will answer your questions. Jeremy Johnson, you drew the first number, so you will make your opening statement first. 2 minutes.
All right. Hi, my name's Jeremy Johnson. I've lived nearly all of my 30 years, almost 30 years, here in Pittsburg, Kansas. Growing up, my parents, Mark and Jackie, who are there in the back, modeled for me the sort of civic engagement and service that I kind of now strive for in my own life. My wife and I, Megan, who's right over there in the second row, recently bought our first house here in Pittsburgh, and we are expecting our first child, who we intend to raise here in Pittsburgh. I currently serve on the executive boards of Live Well Crawford County and Habitat for Humanity, and am the chair of Eat Well Crawford County and serve on the Active Transportation Advisory Board for the city. My experience in these organizations, along with my work with patients at Community Health Center of Southeast Kansas, has shown me firsthand a lot of the issues that Pittsburgh faces, but also has prepared me fairly well to do the work necessary to address those very issues.
Okay. Mr. Ketterman.
Evening. My name is John Ketterman. I was born and raised in Pittsburgh, been here all my life. Been married to my wife, Ruth, 38 years tomorrow. Happy anniversary, hon. I've been on the commission. I'm just coming off my first term of 4 years. I'm seeking re-election for that. I belong to the Pittsburgh Masonic Lodge, the Mirza Shrine, and the Elks Club. They're all civic organizations and different things that we do there to help out children's hospitals and stuff. And again, I'm just seeking my second term on the commission, and thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. O'Brien.
Good evening. I'm Patrick O'Brien. I've lived here about 48 years. I came to Pittsburgh from my parents' ranch out about 35 miles from here. I came to Pittsburgh to go to PSU. While at PSU, I took a part-time job at Little's, and therefore I subsequently became a partner and owner. I've been retired about a year and a half. I have served a number of organizations in Pittsburgh. I was one of the co-founders of Downtown Merchants Association, served as president of that for a time being. I served on the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce, and I was president at that organization also. I have belonged to Pittsburgh Beautiful in the past, as well as Crestwood Country Club, where I am now a board member and president-elect for next year. I was appointed to the City Commission to serve out an unexpired term. When that term expired, I ran for office and was elected to a 4-year term where I have served as mayor. I only bring these things to point to show that I've had a commitment to the community And I've learned serving in these entities the things that are important to the community, that the things that the community needs to excel and progress, and I look forward to trying to continue that.
Mr. Munsell.
Hello, my name's Chuck Munsell. I'm a current city commissioner, just coming off my 2-year term. I grew up in Pittsburgh, lived here my whole life. My family was involved in the trash service for a number of years. Went to school at PHS, went to vocational school at Pitt State. I worked at McNally's Foundry till they closed. Then I worked at every McNally's in Pittsburgh, and they all closed. I don't take credit that the reason why they closed, because when I was at the machine shop, a couple of them were still open, but I applied and got a job on the Pittsburgh Fire Department. Worked there 25 years and retired, and ran for commission 2 years ago. So I have a combined total of service to the citizens, 25 years on the fire department, 2 years as a commissioner. I ran to be, I have the same experiences that I've lived in my life that a lot of people are dealing with right now. Grew up poor, worked hard, was without a job, and had to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. And I know a lot of people are going through them same issues there. Now we have in Pittsburgh, we have a lot of things going for us in Pittsburgh. That's why we stay here. We support our businesses, our hospital, our university, and you know, I think we need, I know we need to get jobs in our community that can pay a wage so people can have the same experiences that I've had in life, raise a family, put a couple kids through college, and have your kids do better. That's basically what I have to say.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson, your opening statement.
I'm Helen L. McPherson. My husband had passed away 6 years ago. I was married to a man from Nevada, Missouri. His name was Smith, and my 5 children are named Smith. I had 8 children. We had 7, and I had 1 before that. And I was left a widow in '75 with 5 children under 16 years old, and I worked and raised those. Put 3 of them in college by myself, and I lived here all alone by my alone. I've lived here all my life. And my uncle he run the Big Brutus over at West Mineral, and my other uncle lived in Scammon. So they came from Lebanon, Missouri. My folks did. And my mother remarried after my dad got killed in '29 at Dickie Clay. And we traveled with the carnival all the summer, same towns all the time. I had a wonderful childhood. I had a good stepfather and a good mother. I don't belong to no clubs. I was too busy raising children.
Okay. Well, thank you to our candidates for your opening statements. We'll now go into a couple of questions that the candidates were provided in advance. And Mr. Ketterman, you'll be the first to answer this question. What do you think are the top 3 priorities for the city to focus on over the next 5 years?
I think the top 3 are, first of all, infrastructure. We have to keep improving our infrastructure with replacing the water lines, the sewer lines, and the roads in town. Secondly, will be jobs. We have to continue to try to attract people to town to bring their businesses here, to put people to work and give them a good living wage, not just minimum wage. Third, I think probably housing. But I think our biggest housing problem is for the middle income. We have plenty of low housing, we have plenty of high housing, but the middle income, our income is lacking in the area, and I think that's where we need to focus our attention.
Mr. O'Brien.
The top 3 items, I think, first is attending to our basic job as a city, and that is to see that we have good police, fire, water, and sewer systems. We have to address these through funding, through continual maintenance, and projecting to the future what we're going to be needing. The second item is economic development. We need to be aware and interactive with our existing job creators. We need to expand job creation in Pittsburgh, and we need to maintain our relationship with Topeka to promote Highway 69. The third item is our quality of life issues that we have. We can't bring people to Pittsburgh for our economic development if we don't have a city that they want to move to. The quality of life issues is to the expansion of our parks and recreation. We're dealing with a new ball field perhaps in the future, that kind of thing. We need to develop restaurants and retail. You can't bring somebody to Pittsburgh if the wife doesn't like the community. We have to have shopping, we have to have restaurants. The third item is the entertainment issue. And that's what people do after the work's finished for the day. Whether it's an expanded bar scene in the downtown area, music, or the arts. They're all become part of this job creation, quality of life issues that people want today.
Thank you. Mr. Mansell.
My first top priority is to get jobs that somebody can raise a family on when they live in Pittsburgh. We have 60% of our children that go to school that receive free or reduced lunches. We're the poorest county in the state. Good paying jobs will go a long ways to get that problem fixed. You know, we pay for things by raising taxes, sales tax and property tax. And that's a given. But we have people on low and fixed incomes now that are pretty close to being taxed out. Our population hasn't grown that much in the last few years. So when we tax, we're taxing the same people over and over again, just adding more taxes on what they're already paying. So I'm saying if we have opportunities to bring in better paying jobs, then we'll have more people move into our town. And that takes me right into my second priority, or our housing. We have a lot of vacant houses sitting around for sale. We have 50% of our population live in rental property. And there you go again. My top priority, if we get the jobs that people can afford to buy some of these houses, that will help on our property tax. You know, like I said, we can't, a lot of people can't enjoy the benefits that we have in Pittsburgh. They help pay for them, but they don't have, by tax, and they don't have the money to take advantage of it. And the third priority I have is our infrastructure. We have to keep maintaining our streets, our water lines, take care of equipment that needs maintenance that we've not been taken care of in the last few years. So top priority, jobs, take care of all three of my priorities. Just got to get some good paying jobs that people can afford to raise a family on, buy some houses.
Okay. Ms. McPherson?
Well, my priority is keeping taxes low because we're taxed to death. And my folks paid on this sewage when they owned their property. When I got the property through them, I was still paying on that too. And when we go down 7th Street through Joplin, if it rains really hard, it's like a flood. Your car floods out. There's so much water there. It does not get away. And I've seen a lot of changes, some good and some bad. But I've raised my children here, and they all had to leave because there were no jobs. And I have no children here that even can vote for me because they all live out of the state. Out of 5 of them. So anyhow, it's rough for young people to start out with, and I know that. We need good jobs. We need things that could bring the people in here. And we used to have a lot of good entertainment. We had 3 shows uptown, 2 drive-ins. We don't have those anymore. Pat knows Joe Linsky.
Mm-hmm.
He owned the Cozy Theater. I have autograph of Tex Ritter at home that Joe brought to town.
I have one of Wild Red Berry.
Well, I have one of his too. He lived over on East 8th. I knew him real well. I'm from East Town. And so it's really hard for young people.
Thank you, Ms. McPherson. Mr. Johnson.
All right. Three basic things, I guess, that come to my mind. The housing thing has been identified as a major one, especially with the housing study, the massive, I should say, housing study that the city recently conducted, looking at renting versus owning ratios, income distribution across the city, the age and quality of the housing stock, that kind of thing. So definitely acting upon that. So that means doing things like looking for opportunities to create new developments within the city for housing, and working with contractors and developers to make sure that those new developments sort of fall in line with the vision that the city has for its future, that it's not simply cherry picking or willy-nilly, but moving in a very specific direction. And in addition to that, then, also renovating existing properties and improving the current housing stock through means of creating policies and or programs and or incentives that give basically current property owners and or developers and contractors to give them reason to improve existing housing stock. Second is the health of the citizens in the community through doing things like, I mean, if you're a hammer, you tend to see a lot of nails kind of thing, but through doing things like looking at access to healthy food, looking at availability of options and opportunities for people to exercise, and so things like the trail and park infrastructure that the city has. And these two things then kind of tying together with the whole jobs thing, that you attract businesses and the people that work for them by creating an attractive environment for the people who live in the city, basically.
You all. I would encourage our audience members to submit questions that we can ask the candidates. Please write your question down in the back of the room, submit it to Mr. Nash, and if it passes the test, then we will ask our candidates. The second prepared question will be answered first by Mr. O'Brien. A crucial part of serving as a Pittsburgh City Commissioner is the ability to work with opposing viewpoints to gain consensus on an issue or opportunity. Citing specific examples, please tell us how you have worked with differing opinions and how that experience has prepared you to serve as a Pittsburgh City Commissioner. Mr. O'Brien.
Well, I think my primary example is the fact that I was in business for a number of years. And in business, you deal with bankers, you deal with vendors, and you deal with your customers. And you have to listen to their points of view, what they need from you, what you need from them, and come to a consensus. Another way that I have dealt with this is serving through different organizations. When I was involved with the Downtown Merchants, we had meetings, we listened to the retailers, what they wanted, what they needed, and put together a plan. And it wasn't a one-sided situation. It was a coming together of different opinions and come up with a consensus. My third example is my business partnership. As anybody knows, in business or in a marriage, it's a give and take situation, and you learn to read the other person, know when their feelings aren't strong as yours or stronger than yours, and know which fight to pick, what you can do to get your point across, and know the points of contention that you can win, and know the ones you can't. And therein lies, I think, the value in problem solving.
Okay. Mr. Mansell?
Well, as 25 years as a firefighter, we had 11 people on the shift and had 11 different opinions. But when it come down to fighting a fire, we was all on the same page because your life depended on your other people you work with. And that's true in life. You depend on people that are around you, and their opinions are very important. And you take theirs with yours, and hopefully you can come up with a decision that's best for all. The best example I have to tell you about tonight is my 2 years on the commission. There's 5 commissioners, and we're a diverse group, and that's good for the city, that we all have different points of view. We come together and we approve a budget. It's not always what everybody wants, but it's what we have to do for what's the best for the citizens. You listen to the citizens, you take their arguments, why we don't want taxes raised, but you try to keep them to a minimum, but you got to do what's best for the city. There's we come together on ordinances that we have to approve on, but a thing that another thing that you have to take different opinions on is our economic development issues. There was some things in the paper last week about Ron's and the Walmart. Ron's has been supported by the community for a long time. They give to the community, and the community needs to give back to Ron's. They have a great business because of support. Another thing that I don't understand was an issue that was brought up about the trash again. I thought that was done, settled, and it should be. It's unfortunate that our local people that's in the trash service have to be concerned about their future every 2 years. Hopefully this will be settled and forgotten about, and let's move on.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson?
I think the people that hauls our trash should just stay the way it is because they're very good people. Some of them was my neighbors, and I just rather that they have their own business just like everyone else. Also, I used to have 2 bars, one on East 8th and one on East 10th. And I'd like to see the cigarette tax and the liquor tax stay the same or lower if it could be done. I'd like to see the casino come in. I would like to see, because that would be make more jobs for people. And let it be out there north where the dog track was. There's plenty of land out there that they could build a big hotel or whatever. Save the money. We don't have money to spend. Our state is in debt over our heads. And as long as that's there, it doesn't seem like it's going to get any better. And housing, it's terrible that the way they want rent for these shacks, $600 a month. And if you've got a family, it takes 3 paychecks to make a living anymore, not just 2. And when my children was growing up, I know how hard it was. I didn't ask welfare or churches to help me feed my children. I fed them for a lot of, my wages was a lot less than what they are getting right today.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Blake, could you repeat the question, please?
Yes, absolutely. A crucial part of serving as a Pittsburg City Commissioner is the ability to work with opposing viewpoints to gain consensus on an issue or opportunity. Citing specific examples, please tell us how you have worked with differing opinions and how that experience has prepared you to serve as a Pittsburg City Commissioner.
Well, that's what I do every day at my work at Community Health Center. I'm in charge of a Medicaid program called Health Homes, and basically what I do is I work with patients who are enrolled in the program to make sure that they're doing all the things they need to do to stay healthy, making sure they're going to their appointments, taking their medications, receiving the services that they need and require and are eligible for. And a good strategy I found out for turning people off and making them not listen to you is simply talking at them and telling them what to do. They will, that's a good way to lose anybody. However, on the other hand, a good strategy for approaching, people who are maybe fixed in their ways or don't want to do something they're not familiar with is to listen, to begin starting the conversation with questions, asking what it, sort of what makes them tick, find out what their concerns are, that kind of thing. And once you have a sense of the person, their ideals, the things that they value, then you can begin a meaningful conversation and speak specifically to those values, coming from a place of recognizing your own, the things that are important to you, and putting those in conversation with one another. And that's how you move any conversation forward and you make progress on anything. In a similar vein, working in organizations like Live Well and Eat Well and the Active Transportation Board, everybody on them is coming from different points of view and different backgrounds and that kind of thing, but have sort of a common goal or objective, however vague and sort of down the line that may be. But again, you have to take into consideration and find out through conversation, through asking questions, through being thorough, and paying attention and listening to what those concerns are and begin to speak to those. And at that point, if you're able to find common ground, that's how you do anything, whether it's running a meeting or progressing the city.
Good. Mr. Ketterman.
I think I'm going to run off Patrick here for a minute. I think the first part was back when I was in sales. Not one person is going to treat you the same way that the other person does. You have to determine what works best for that person and what works best for this person and do whatever it needs to be done to finish the project. But I think one of the biggest ones that we've ever done, and it goes to the commission, is back when we went into the city manager search. There was a lot of meetings and a lot of cussing and discussing on that.
No cussing.
No cussing? No, we didn't have no cussing. To where we got down to the final candidates. We went through a lot of candidates to bring the 4 that we had to come, but only ended up with 2 of them showing up to find the best candidate we could for the job. And there was a lot of differences of opinion for a while, but eventually we all came together and brought the best candidate we think to Pittsburgh.
Yeah, very good. We will now transition into the questions from the audience, and we've had a couple of those submitted. Thank you to our audience members. Would encourage any others that have questions to take advantage of the pad and the pens that we have in the back. Please write your question down and submit it to Mr. Nash. The first question from the audience will be answered first by Mr. Munsell, and again, you will all have 2 minutes to answer this. The issue or the topic of housing has been mentioned a couple of times tonight, so we'll dig a little bit deeper into that topic. And the question is this: do you believe that Pittsburgh has a housing problem, and if so, how would you address it? Do you think Pittsburgh has a housing problem, and if so, how would you address it? Mr. Munsell.
I don't know if it's a problem. I think we have housings that are in a particular price range, either low or high. We need houses that young families can buy. And I know when I was a young married man, you start out small, and you buy a cheaper home that you can afford. Once again, this all goes back to having a job that you can afford to buy a house, that you can afford to not rent anymore. You have something you can be proud of and call it your home. So you start out small, you take care of it through, money that you have from the good job. And eventually, you move up. We have some opportunities for higher paying, higher price homes, and hopefully when that starts getting built, we have jobs that can support buying one of those homes. So yeah, we do have some areas that I think the medium priced house is where we need some to look into. Nobody wants to buy a house that you got to put a lot of money into and remodel it. If that's the case, you're going to have to go up or down, whatever you can afford. And so yes, I think in the medium income level housing is where we need to look. And like I said, once again, back to jobs. If you have a job to buy a house and get out of the rental market, that benefits all of us in Pittsburgh, adds to the property tax base.
Ms. McPherson?
There is a housing shortage, yes. Back when World War II started, we had a freeze on rent, and I think maybe that would help again for some of these young people that's starting out.
Mr. Johnson?
Could you repeat the question again?
Yes. Let me find it. Do you believe Pittsburgh has a housing problem? And if so, how would you address it?
Well, I think to answer the question, you have to, and honestly, this is the way it is with a lot of the issues that the city faces, address them using facts and information that you have available to you. The city released a housing study a couple of months ago, I believe it was, that is one of the most thorough and informative and interesting documents I have ever read. It's kind of long, but if you get the chance, go onto the city's website and take a look at this. It's incredible. But if we're to take facts seriously, this document would suggest that yes, Pittsburgh does in fact have a housing problem. According to the assessment, much of what the city has is too old and too small. And so in order to address that, like I had kind of mentioned in my previous answer, that will require, one, looking for opportunities to increase the housing stock, creating new developments, moving what the city has available forward, but on the other hand, also creating opportunities, policies, incentives, that kind of thing, to encourage property owners and contractors the opportunity to develop, renovate, or demolish as necessary existing housing so that we can get it up to snuff and get it up to a size that is, attractive to businesses and people who will come to work for those businesses.
Good. Mr. Ketterman?
I believe we have a housing issue. Yeah, we still have some dilapidated housing in this town that probably needs to be taken down. But we have a lot of low-income people around here that can't afford really nice houses. So there's a need for certain types of houses to be there for these people. A lot is made of the fact that we're 51% rental here in town. But from all the studies done, every college town has that same amount of rental. They're all around 50%. I still believe that we're short on the middle income housing. I know we have some possibilities of a couple of different developments coming up here at some point in the future to address those issues. But I still think we have plenty of the low income, we have plenty of high income, we just need the middle income housing.
Very good. Mr. O'Brien?
I think we do have a housing issue. As Jeremy said, this housing study is in-depth, it's really informative, and it gives you numbers that you can believe. How do we address it? We address it by looking at the housing study, seeing what they tell us that we are lacking in Pittsburgh. We need to then develop a strategy. What do we want to do about this? How are we going to address this? Perhaps develop some incentives for builders or for remodelers. We need to think about new additions. We haven't had a new addition built in Pittsburgh for years and years and years. When you bring people to a community, they want housing of a particular quality, and we need to look to make sure that this is available for them. we also need to take a look at the existing housing that we have that's perhaps dilapidated, and develop some kind of a program to see if we can get this block of our retail taken care of. And I think that's, with those on our plate, we can get to where we need to be.
Thank you all for your responses on that. Our next question from the audience will be answered first by Ms. McPherson, and the question is this. In your opinion, what is the best use of the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund, and are we currently using that fund to that end? What is the best use of the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund, and are we currently using that fund to that end? Ms. McPherson.
Name that I don't understand what you're saying.
Okay. What is the best use of the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund?
Is that a loan? Is that what you're saying?
It's a loan fund that the city has and administers. Do you feel what is the best use for that fund, and are we currently using that fund to that end?
I really don't know, but I don't know that. I had to give up my home and move into a nursing home. And so I don't really know about that.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Johnson.
One more time, sorry.
Okay.
I like to be thorough.
Sure. What is the best use of the Economic Development Revolving Loan Fund, and are we currently using that fund to that end?
In as far as I'm familiar with what it's been used for, as far as I understand it, I mean, like creating opportunities for existing businesses, forgivable loan type of stuff that allow them to do expansions and that kind of thing. And in my opinion, yes, absolutely. Looking for ways to help existing businesses expand in addition to trying to attract new ones is a positive thing, I think, for the city to be doing. If we're serious about doing economic development and trying to grow the community and trying to improve the economic outlook here, the city does need to be looking for avenues, creating programs, incentives, that kind of thing, to make it sensible for its businesses to expand, to try to grow, to try to hire more people, to try and do the kinds of things that we want businesses in the community to do.
Mr. Ketterman.
Yes and no. I think for the most part, with helping businesses expand, creating jobs, those type of things, I think that the Economic Development Fund is being used tremendously that way. I think there's some fluff things that are going on with using it for items that may not necessarily bring jobs to the area. I would like to see more emphasis put on that, is that jobs have to be part of the agreement to get the loan to begin with. And I believe that we got to get away from the forgivable loans. I don't care if it's a no interest loan. We got to start getting some of that money paid back in, or if we get an opportunity at a big company, we're not going to have the money there to get him.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. O'Brien.
The best use of the revolving loan fund, I think that at this point, we have a great board who works on that. They're smart individuals. They give it due diligence. They go through all of these applications seriously. And I think that, A, we should be really pleased with this board and thank them. I think that these loans should be perhaps a 50-50, a part tied to job creation, part forgivable loans. I don't think that the city should be looked at for handouts without some kind of benefit to the city, whether it is making their property better, creating jobs, making sure that this company stays in Pittsburgh. I think while we do these two things, we also need to be mindful of keeping a large enough residue in this fund so that if/when we have a opportunity knock on our door that we need to have some big money for, that we have this money available to help create this opportunity for Pittsburgh.
Mr. Mansell.
I think we're using that revolving loan fund money for the best thing we can do for our local businesses. I think we look at how we can help them first. You know, to echo John, the forgivable loan part, you know, if it creates a job, you know, I want to see what that job's going to pay. You know, if it's something that you can raise a family on, sure, yeah, I could see that, forgiving that loan over a period of time and a number of employees that you're going to create from that. If it's something that you can't raise a family on, well, you know, we still loan to local companies, but, you know, come up with a zero interest loan to help them prosper. You know, I think we need to look for other companies coming into town and give them some incentives. But I don't want to give them incentives that might, when they get to our town, well, let me back up. I think we should give them incentives. But I don't want them coming in and making our local businesses suffer and maybe not be able to even stay in business because, you know, you have this bigger company coming in and we give them a bunch of incentives because we have a lot of businesses that have been in business for a long time in our town and hasn't asked for a penny from the revolving loan fund. They've earned it, you know, what they have, they built it on their own. So I think you support what you have now, make sure they're stable, but look, you know, like Patrick said, we need a lot of money maybe to attract a large company in town. And, you know, I don't want one that's going to come in here and, you know, you can't tell how long they're going to be, but we don't want to end up with a big empty building 10 years down the line when it's time to start, you know, paying stuff back.
Very good. Our next question from the audience will be answered first by Mr. Johnson, and the question is this. What, in your opinion, can the city do to attract, retain, and empower young professionals in our community? What, in your opinion, can the city do to attract, retain, and empower young professionals in our community? Mr. Johnson.
Several things come to mind. I mean, expanding and building up the sorts of incentives that young professionals, of whom I am one, would like to see. That means bolstering sort of the cultural scene, making sure that downtown remains vibrant, has a lot of diverse businesses, has a lot to offer of that group of people, making sure that good quality housing is available for them, that is attractive, that is forward-thinking and progressive and not simply the right size. Looking to, you know, sort of tied to that is the whole jobs thing of like making sure that the businesses that young working professionals who are just out of college or, you know, the types of businesses that they're looking to work for are also attracted. So making sure that you know, the economic outlook for the town is sort of in line with that and geared, ready to, prepared to respond to those businesses and their needs and that kind of thing. In terms of empowering them, I mean, making sure that they have the opportunity to, I guess I'm a good example of this, to get up here and do this kind of thing. Making sure that they feel not sort of on the outside of the community, but like they can be, and this is one of the things I love so much about Pittsburgh, is that it doesn't really matter your age, your previous experience. Like if you're interested and passionate about something and there's an opportunity for it, like if this were a larger city, there is no way that I would be able to do something like this. But because Pittsburgh is sort of the size of community that I like, that I'm interested in, that I'm passionate about seeing grow and expand, like, you know, those are the things that are important to me as a young professional. I would absolutely want to continue that for others.
Mr. Ketterman.
Did you read the question?
Yes. What, in your opinion, can the city do to attract, retain, and empower young professionals in our community?
I think that some of the things you can do, I think you're either started or trying to start the entrepreneurship to have local businesses work with the college kids and people trying to get into work to help them establish a business. I also think, again, we have to look at the middle-class housing. We have to have that $150,000 to $200,000 homes readily available for people that are wanting to move to this area. And I think we have to do more than just get them here. We have to keep them here. So we have to have the entertainment. Like Jeremy said, we have to have a vibrant downtown. That always was a big draw back in the years before it kind of went into disrepair down there in places. You had people coming from everywhere to go down there and party and stuff, so it was a big draw at one time to bring people to town. So you have to have the parks and the trail systems for them. And those are the things that we just have to do to draw people to town.
Mr. O'Brien?
You've said first attract. That means to me jobs. You've got to have quality jobs that these young professionals, I think you said, want to be part of. That's economic development. Then you said retain. Retain means quality of life to me. You've got to have a social scene in the city that lets people of diverse interest have a selection of arts, of restaurants, of retail shopping, of services. One of our largest employers keeps hiring people, and they come to town. Their spouse isn't happy with Pittsburg, Kansas, and they wind up leaving. It's not cost effective, and the company I'm talking about has realized that and is changing their modus operandi. So we have to make Pittsburgh an exciting community to live in. Empower. I think that Jeremy hit on the empowerment, and that is the ability for these people to move about in different social situations, be able to participate in government, be a welcoming community that lets these people become a part of the community.
Mr. Mansell?
We know our young professionals do not have all the opportunities in the world to stay in Pittsburgh. They go where the jobs are that pay a good price for wages once they graduate college. You know, we don't have them businesses in town now, so my next thought is how do we retain our young professionals? And I look at young professionals as school teachers, nurses, people in the healthcare industry. You know, we're looking to be a regional medical hub of southeast Kansas. You know, we need jobs that people have a passion to do for the job itself, not what the job pays. And when we can do that, have jobs for our nurses, our doctors, our school teachers, you know, my God, what's more important in life than being a school teacher? You know, I can't think of anything. You know, you're influencing young children to, you know, grow up to be something. So, like I said, if we can get some jobs or health care, if we want to be a regional medical provider, we can keep our professional healthcare workers here because you're not doing it for the money, you're doing it for, you know, because that's what you want to do, as well as teachers.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson?
We need transportation here badly. I've noticed that since I was in this wheelchair. We don't have any way to go to town, to go shopping anywhere, unless you have a person that'll come and take you and they don't have time. and we need transportation badly. Mr. Cook was our manager at Walmart, and he didn't hire college students because they weren't going to make that their career. But I live at Medical Lodge South, and we've got a lot of good nurses over there that's going to leave town because there's no jobs for them. And that's a shame that we're going to lose them.
Very good. Thank you. Our final question from the audience tonight is not specific to the City of Pittsburgh or the City Commission, but is more a community-based question that one of our audience members would like your thoughts on. And Mr. Ketterman, you'll have the first opportunity to answer this question. What do you think of Pittsburgh not having a women's homeless shelter available to its citizens, and how might we be able to get one? What do you think of Pittsburgh not currently offering a women's homeless shelter, and how might we be able to get one? Mr. Ketterman.
I think it's a shame that the homeless shelter that we had to close down. But face it, there's no way that we as a city can afford to open a homeless shelter. All that funding was cut from the federal government and state government to where we no longer have the ability to get it. There's no grants out there or anything. So if we could work with the churches and some private individuals that maybe to get funding to be able to open some type of a homeless shelter, I think that would be a great thing for the city.
Okay. Mr. O'Brien.
I'm not sure that the city should be in homeless shelter business. I know that it's a needed situation, but unfortunately the federal and state government have cut funding, grants, all this kind of monies that need to be located here to address that problem. The only way I see that this can be addressed is through a consortium of the churches, the fraternal organizations to come together and act as a magnet and perhaps all pool their resources to deal with this. Saying that, I feel strongly that the City of Pittsburgh would do what we can to help them with this project. If these faith-based or other organizations would spearhead this.
Thank you. Mr. Mansell.
Well, I too agree that it's unfortunate that things that look good on paper by cutting funding to certain organizations, such as the homeless shelter, affects people adversely. They don't have a place to go. I agree the city can't afford to maintain that themselves. What's good in Topeka usually falls on our shoulders that we can't pay for. I don't know where the funds would come from this. I'd have to echo what everybody else has said. You got to look for churches, some other type of organizations, and the city's probably could come up with some sort of funding along with that, but it's going to take a group of different organizations to put something like that together. Not one place is going to be able to afford it on their own.
Thank you. Ms. McPherson.
Before I moved into to the Medical Lodge South, I advertised for a lady to come and live with me, and I would pay the expenses and give her a salary if she would live with me, as it would be our home. They wanted to pay, but they didn't want to work, and I felt sorry for them. But so I had to give up my home then and move into the Medical Lodge South because I needed their help. I can't live by myself no more, and I know that. And that's a terrible thing. I feel sorry for them, but they don't want no help at times.
Okay. Mr. Johnson.
Blake, as is typical of me, would you mind
Sure.
establishing a reputation
Absolutely.
here, I'm afraid?
Yes. What do you think, and I'm just reading it as it was written, what do you think of Pittsburgh not having a women's homeless shelter available to its citizens, and how might we be able to get one?
Like everyone has said, it's incredibly unfortunate that it closed, and the way that it went about closing was awful. Like Chuck had said, simply cutting for the sake of cutting is not a good idea, especially when those services are incredibly vital, and certainly in the case of Crawford County, as per the recent USA Today article saying that we're the poorest county in the state, is vitally necessary. I think that this issue is probably pretty typical of most issues the city will face, that there's not sort of this low-hanging fruit that sort of solves all of the problems with a single, oh, yeah, that'll do it kind of thing, that there are very, very few clear-cut decisions like that. That because that's the case doesn't necessarily mean that we can say, well, we can't address this issue and there's nothing we can do about it. I hope somebody comes up with something kind of answer. I think that the commission and the city will have to be creative in looking at, and this is something that Pittsburgh has been generally good at in the past, is looking at ways to connect both the private sector and what the city is doing to try to create those opportunities, not simply all or nothing kind of thing, but looking for ways to connect already existing services, which is how so many things like the Family Resource Center, Community Health Center, all started as outreach efforts from larger organizations like the hospital or USD 250, which are now enormously successful and powerful and vital forces within the community. And I think that if we're to take seriously something like homelessness, that it's going to take a similar approach, that we're going to have to look at things that already exist, find ways to connect them, and find ways to make those more successful.
Okay. Thank you all for your responses. We'll now transition into the final part of this evening's event, which is a 2-minute closing statement from each of the candidates. Mr. O'Brien, you'll deliver your closing statement first.
Thank you, Blake. Thank you all for coming. I appreciate that. It speaks well for your community involvement and to the people who are watching at home on TV. It's been a privilege to be able to serve on the Pittsburgh Area Chamber of Commerce for the last 6 years. It's been enlightening, it's been challenging, and it's also been very rewarding. I know that everything is not perfect in Pittsburgh, but I do know that we are moving in the right direction. We are hard at work on maintenance of our infrastructure, things that we haven't been up to par on. We are now adding new police and fire to our workforce, which we've desperately needed. Due to the sales tax that everyone voted for, I see that we have a number of very successful companies in Pittsburgh that give back to the community in so many ways. And I want to make sure that we are able to maintain the relationship with these people and to create new relationships with outside entities to make Pittsburgh a better place. Pittsburgh's a great place. I've loved living here. I hope that I can leave it in a better place than when I came, so that the young people will have a place to come home to, raise their family, earn a great income, and be proud to be a Pittsburgh person.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Mr. Munsell.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody that turned out tonight and the people that's watching us on the television. I think it's important when you go to the polling place next Tuesday, you know a little bit about who you're going to be voting for, other than some of our signs or a name on a ballot. Having said that, you know, I've served once again, 25 years to the citizens on the fire department. I've enjoyed serving the 2 years that I've been a commissioner. You know, it's a job that pays well, and I mean that by it's rewarding, because you listen to a lot of people all over town, and you try to make the decisions I make when I vote on something is for the best for all of people that lives in Pittsburgh. You know, sometimes it's kind of a tough decision we have to make. Like Patrick said, we are a city that's got a lot to offer. I just don't want to make it too hard for people that's on low incomes and fixed incomes to still be able to live in Pittsburgh. Like I said, we can't keep taxing the same population we have over and over again. And how we do that, we need to get some jobs in here. I don't know how to do that. That's your job, Blake. You know, as a commissioner, I know we can, I hate to put that on you, but as a commissioner, my job is to listen to what you have to say, offer incentives to companies or businesses that want to expand, and when other places see what Pittsburgh does for their businesses, then they might move into town, that we support our local businesses and trying to attract new ones. So.
Thank you, Mr. Munsell. It's a dual role for the moderator. Ms. McPherson.
I have appreciated your running against these four men. It took a lot of guts, my daughter said, and I appreciate it. I've met so many nice people that I didn't know before, and I appreciated every one of you. Thank you. I have Parkinson's disease, and I'm shaken.
Thank you again, Ms. McPherson. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you all again for coming out. I just want to say I love this community so much. It has given me countless opportunities, countless ways to become who I am, basically. And so, of course, I want to give back to it. I want to see it continue to grow, continue bringing in businesses that will provide quality, high-paying jobs, to expand and grow the number of amenities that it has available, the infrastructure that's attractive to young working professionals, young and working professionals, and the businesses that employ them, to improve and expand the city's housing stock, and to continue to broaden the city's services and the work that it does to improve the lives of every one of its citizens. I feel that my experience, as I've talked about it, in civic organizations and working with patients at Community Health Center, have prepared me well for the work necessary to continue to grow the community. So planning and researching and deliberating and coordinating and organizing and all of that really unsexy stuff, I want to do it so badly. And as a city commissioner, I intend to take on that work.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Mr. Ketterman.
I also would like to thank everybody for coming out tonight and all those in TV land out there. I first ran for commissioner 4 years ago when I was elected because I care about this community. I want to see this community grow. It's been my honor to serve the community and hope to serve it in the future also. You know, Pittsburgh's not perfect. We've got a long ways to go, but we've got a great start on it right now. We're headed in the right direction. We've had a pretty diverse group on the commission right now. We've got several different opinions from different sectors of the world, and I think we work well together. And I really would like to continue to serve the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ketterman. I hope our audience members will help me give our candidates a big round of applause this evening. Yes, ma'am.
I've lived here for 88 years, and this is my hometown.
Very
Help me
good.
be.
Glad to have you with us. Well, again, thank you to the City of Pittsburgh for hosting us this evening. Thank you to Andrew Nash for serving as our proctor. We'll close with one final reminder that Election Day is 1 week from today, Tuesday, April 7th. Encourage everybody to get out and make your voice heard by voting. Thank you again. Have a great evening.
I've already voted.
You've already voted.
I've got one vote.
You got one.
So they can't